4 fake cops kicked down my door at midnight. Glass exploded across my kitchen floor. 4 men in mismatched tactical gear screaming orders they had no legal right to give. My HOA president thought she'd finally broken me after weeks of harassment, but she chose the wrong retiree to start a war with because I'm not just some quiet old man with a porch chair and a mailbox. I'm a former sheriff who spent 30 years fighting real predators. The funny part is, I didn't move here looking for trouble. My name's Frank Bell, 55, retired after 3 decades in law enforcement. On paper it says county worker like I spent my life shuffling forms and stamping paperwork. Reality. I spent 30 years hunting down drug dealers, kicking in doors on abusers, putting predators in cages so kids could sleep safe at night. That work took pieces out of me, especially the Hendricks case, the one that finally broke something inside me. 18 kids, ages 4 to 12. I can't even say what those monsters did without my hands shaking. After that, I couldn't keep doing the job. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't even look at my own son without seeing other kids' faces. So I took early retirement, bought a house in Pine Ridge Estates, told myself I'd spend my golden years gardening, maybe reading a book on the porch. Big joke. The universe must have been laughing when I thought I could finally rest. My son Jake helped me move in. Good kid works in IT, worried about his old man being alone after his mom passed. He brought me a gift, a ceramic garden gnome wearing a sheriff's hat. Said every retired cop needed a partner who wouldn't argue. First real laugh I'd had in months. I put that little guy on the porch thinking he was harmless. Within 6 hours, the neighborhood flipped like someone threw a switch. People who waved yesterday suddenly crossed the street, pulled their kids away, whispered into phones while staring at me like I was radioactive. And then Beverly, an older neighbor with more courage than most, pulled me aside and whispered, "Frank, Teresa's been asking about you." Real specific questions. Your past, your family, whether you've ever been aggressive. Teresa. Teresa Campbell, the HOA president, the one running this neighborhood like a private fiefdom. She was painting me as some kind of danger before I even finished unpacking my boxes. I'd seen tactics like this before isolate the target control. The story turned the community against him before he even knows he's in a fight. Suddenly, I was the predator, the creep, the danger to women and children, all because a 6-inch ceramic sheriff was an unapproved decoration. Then came the letters, fines, violation notices, threats of legal action. And at every HOA meeting, Teresa worked the crowd like a politician. Calm voice, pretty charts, photos of me picking up the paper, waving at neighbors, evidence, she called it, of my systematic surveillance. Lady, I've arrested men who really stalked women. They don't retire to gated communities to water tomato plants. But I'll be honest, for a while she broke me down. Nights sitting at the kitchen table with legal papers spread out, thinking maybe I was the problem. Maybe I should have just paid the damn fines, kept my head down, stopped talking to people. My own kid was angry at me. Jake said I was letting her win, letting her destroy me without a fight. And he wasn't wrong. I was tired. I wanted to give up, sell the house, disappear. That's the moment I asked myself, what if she's right? What if I really am just the cranky old guy neighbors should fear? That was my lowest point. Then Jake came back with proof. He'd stayed up all night digging through the HOA's financial records. Hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled into emergency repairs, new roofs, driveways, fences, all done by Martinez Construction, conveniently owned by Teresa's brother-in-law. Every check signed by her alone, embezzlement disguised as generosity. And the families who got those upgrades, they were her inner circle, her loyal supporters, the same ones who signed petitions saying, "I made them feel unsafe." She bought loyalty with stolen money, then used it as a shield against anyone who threatened to expose her. And a retired cop with questions was the last thing she wanted moving in down the street. So I started fighting back, gathering documents, talking quietly with neighbors who were starting to doubt her recording everything. I showed up at the next HOA meeting ready to tell my story. I laid out my years of service, the trauma that drove me here, the truth about my past. For a second I thought people might believe me. But Teresa, she's a master manipulator. She twisted my own history into evidence. See, former law enforcement trained in surveillance knows how to intimidate without being caught. Every word I spoke she spun into another weapon against me. By the time the meeting ended, she had a restraining order in motion, and half the neighborhood convinced I was a stalker. That night, sitting alone, I almost quit again. Almost. But then came the breaking point. 11:47 p.m. I was rinsing dishes when the reinforced front door exploded off its hinges. 4 men in mismatched tactical gear stormed my kitchen shouting, "Police search warrant," wrong uniforms, no warrant in sight, no backup cars outside. Instantly, I knew they weren't cops. They were hired muscle wannabe enforcers sent by Teresa to take me out or scare me silent. And here's the thing, after weeks of feeling powerless, suddenly I was back in my element. Finally, something I understood. Threats. I could see rules I knew by heart. The first one reached for what I figured was a gun. I swung the hot coffee pot from the counter, steam hissing across his face. The second fired a taser, but held it wrong. Rookie mistake. I caught the wires with a dish towel and yanked it out of his hands. The third came at me with a baton sloppy as hell, and a quick move off the kitchen island sent it clattering. Within minutes, I had all 4 zip-tied on the floor cable ties from the garage, biting into their wrists. Not bad for an old man who supposedly couldn't be trusted with his mail. When my former partner Kevin Chen arrived, I already had their confessions recorded on my phone. "The lady paid us $5,000, the leader blurted, said he was blackmailing her with documents." Blackmail. The only thing I'd been doing was asking questions. Teresa's last move had been to fabricate a crime, hire fake cops to retrieve evidence, and if I'd ended up dead in the process, well, that would have been neat and tidy for her little empire. But she underestimated me. 30 years of procedure doesn't vanish in retirement. I documented everything, every fake badge, every confession, every weapon. Enough to put her and her cronies away. And that's where the story ends. Not with a party, not with neighbors cheering my name, but with Teresa Campbell in cuffs, charged with manslaughter, fraud, conspiracy. Her little kingdom crumbled, her loyalists left wondering how they ever believed her lies. Me. I stood in the wreckage of my kitchen glass, crunching under my boots, looking down at 4 wannabe cops, zip-tied like hogs. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't scared or doubting myself. I remembered who I was. I wasn't the monster she painted me to be. I was the sheriff who knew exactly how to stop one. Some truths are worth the fight.